Welcome everyone to another edition of the Ultimate Connection with Hashem. And we're specifically focusing on Jewish meditation and intuition. So I'm very excited about this class because it's going to really talk about the ascension into the spiritual worlds. Okay, so we're getting into the nitty-gritties over here in part 4. All those who haven't listened to the previous ones, I think it's very kedai to go back and to listen to the previous classes, give you some background information to how we're going to be planning to do this. Okay, so those who are listening for the first time, my name is Rabbi Yosef Chaim Mimran. I'll be giving the classes, and let's just jump right into it, and let's see where we go. So in order to understand how to ascend into the spiritual worlds, we must first understand some basic scientific principles like the relationship between the physical matter and energy, okay, which I call the physical plane and the spiritual plane. Now, why that is because we are physical beings on the physical plane and we're connecting to a different dimension, but you have to know the materials, the molecular structure of what we're connecting to in order to make a correct connection. Okay, if that makes any sense. But we'll develop that theme as we go along. But this is very, very crucial to understand. So let's first start with the basics in scientific equations, with most famous equation from Einstein. Now, I'm not going to scare you here. We're not going to go into physics and mathematics over here. It's going to be quite straightforward over here. So those who've already know this, then just bear with me. Those who not, then you can always go back and listen to this again. You'll get this clear. So the equation we're going to deal with over here is E equals mc squared. Now, what that basically means is energy and the whole universe, everything is made out of energy, as we know, is equal to mass, which is physicality, times the speed of light squared. Okay, so what we're going to really be doing is concentrating on the first part of the equation, which is E is equal to m. Energy is equal to m. That means energy is only really mass. Mass is another word for physicality, and physicality is also equal to energy. They're equatable. So we have this great scientist called Einstein, probably the greatest physicist that ever lived, that has proven to us mathematically, and maths don't lie, that the scientists call this stuff, the whole stuff of the universe is nothing but just energy. And we'll describe what that is in a minute, okay? So let's go on with the next slide. So truly speaking, all things are condensed sets of molecules or light that moves at the speed of light, which is 186,262 miles per second, which is an insane number of insane speed. You imagine that your whole body is made out of these molecules and they're going at the speed of light of 186,000 miles per second, not per mile, per mile, per second, or not per hour. That essentially means that all things of beings are condensed lights. Okay, we're all really beings of light. Now, angels, now jumping to the level of angels and incarnated souls, are also made of the same universal stuff, but moving at a faster frequency and wavelength. So that's why they're not apparent to anybody. When we speak about angels, or the Torah speaks about angels, or somebody says I had an experience with it, they don't actually physically see them. That is an exception, which we're not even going to talk about. Those are those are called miracles. When you start seeing the spiritual world in a physical form, that's called a miracle. That's a contradiction in terms. To make a spiritual form into a physical form, that's really an impossible feat. But that's called a miracle. But we're talking about the standard spiritual world, us versus our physical world, and we interacting with that. Now, how are we going to interact with that? That's through the inner thought process, as we're going to explain. Okay, we see this clearly, this what we call this stuff and this invisible world, because people say, this phrase is that if I don't see it, I don't believe it. Prove it to me. If I don't see it, I don't believe it. Well, simply said, look at the electromagnetic spectrum. The electromagnetic spectrum, if people don't know what they do, I'm going to put a picture up in a second, is just levels of wavelengths. What are wavelengths? Everybody knows what wavelengths are. There's radio waves, there's microwaves, there's gamma rays, X-rays. All those are invisible waves of the internet. So anybody's going to say, you know what, I don't believe in the internet, I don't believe in the radio because I can't see those waves. They don't exist because I don't see them. Well, that's nonsense. Turn on your radio, turn on your computer, and if it works by Wi-Fi, you see that even though you don't see it, believe it. Believe it, because that's what it is. It's a reality that you're not able to see, but it's a reality which is. So the question is, why can't you see it? Well, like we said, because it's moving at a quicker speed. And something which moves at a quicker velocity, you cannot see it. It's like if something just flew by you, a very fast mosquito, they're very hard, these flies are so hard to catch, you can barely see them because they're moving much quicker. So over here, when you move from the left, where my pointer is, to the right, is moving in quicker and more in velocity. So over here, we're talking about the radio wave. The radio wave is the slowest wave. What we mean by slow is that you see the wave over here, it's very, very longish. When you move to the microwave, the amplitude is shorter. And as you move more to the X-ray and the gamma ray, it starts moving much quicker. That works with color as well. That's one of the classes we're going to be giving maybe next week about the power of colors and how they emit these type of frequencies, which are real life frequencies, like music. Music has a frequency that affects you, like my voice affects your eardrum, that gives a vibration to your mind, that gives an electronic signal to your brain in order to make sense of what I'm saying. So these frequencies are not only sound frequencies, these are also color frequencies that we'll speak about more. But now we're talking more about the electronic or the magnetic frequencies, which are going quicker as we move along down this spectrum over here. Now, we find this principle, for example, that was one example of something which is unseen, which is moving at a different frequency. Another example, we can look at heat. Now, when you heat something up, and heating, by the way, is equal to speed, because when you heat, the molecules will speed up, is equal to movement. Now, in other words, the more the molecular structure of things vibrate, the harder the mass becomes. Now, heat, we said, is speed. It's the same thing. The opposite is true. When you slow something down, it becomes colder. So an example of that is water, okay? It's the H2O, which is 2 atoms and 1 hydrogen. So when you, between the temperatures of 0 and 100 degrees Celsius, we all know what happens. It's normal, right? It's a liquid state. Now, below 0 Celsius, then the molecular structure becomes more dense, and it becomes a solid. So you see that you're changing the molecular structure of something, and it's changing its physicality. Is that interesting? Now, more than that as well, we see that the temperatures above 100 degrees Celsius, the liquid becomes a gas, which is steam. Now, if you heat that water or that steam even higher, then it becomes something called plasma. So you start from ice, you warm them up, it becomes a liquid, liquid becomes steam, steam becomes plasma, the exact same molecular structure or molecular stuff becomes different structures as we go along. Therefore, the difference between energy and energy, again, equate energy with spirituality or the spiritual world, and physicality is our physicality. So the difference between energy and physicality is simply the frequency of the vibration of its molecules. The faster its vitality or it's volatile, the faster it volatiles, or oscillates, that's a better word. The more it oscillates, then the quicker it becomes more into the realm of the spiritual realm. And that's what we call, or what the scientists call, energy. Now, it is with water. So with the human body, if you think about it, a person is 80% water. So conceptually, we can start thinking now, if I can do this to water, heat water up, that means I speed up the molecular structure of water, and it dissipates, it disappears, it becomes a different structure, it becomes energy form, then myself as well, which I'm 80% water, I can also imitate that with the right steps, which we're going to discuss. Now, it is interesting to know that the Kabbalists explain that Adam HaRishon, the first man, his original body, they say that his original body was pure light. It's not interesting, pure light. Why should they use this example of pure light? We would call it pure energy. And they say he had a similar body as angels. Now, the result of incongruent movement in the dimension of thought, which simply means sin, he sinned, led Adam's essence to slow down the frequency of his molecular structure to such an extent that it changed his essence from light to mass. So he was a higher being when he was created. And then because of this incongruence, that means he sinned, he slowed down his molecular structure and became, instead of angelic, he became man-like. Interesting. Now, we have two examples of humans that actually reverse this process by transcending their physical plane, by transforming into light bodies. So two live examples that are actually told to us in the Torah, which is Enoch and Eliyahu Navi, the prophets. Both spoke about in the Torah. Now, what they mention over there, that they go up in flames, which is also interesting as a metaphor. Now, the change itself is rather interesting one, and according to the Kabbalistic legends, the bodies were turned into fire. Now, everyone knows that if one's flesh were to combust, burn into fire, one would burn to death. So, the Torah speaks about this as if they've done something grandiose and they did something fantastic and they elevated themselves. But if they turned into fire, they actually burned themselves to a crisp. So obviously, that type of fire is not the type of fire that we are speaking about. It must be more of a spiritual fire that we're dealing with over here. Rather, it's a transference of matter into energy. Is performed by speeding up their molecular structure. This creates a large amount of heat and thus gives the appearance of fire. As we said, heating up is equivalent to speeding up the molecular structure. Heat, which is a part of fire, therefore that would make sense that they went up in a puff of smoke or they went up in a flame, because they were using heat in order to generate this transition from the physical to the spiritual. This is most likely the reason why the angels and other entities of that nature are said to possess bodies of that glow like brass and gold. Again, in the olden days, I should say that, in Tanakh, they didn't have the scientific perspective that we do, or the language that we're using right now, that a different language. So the language that we're using is frequency and molecular structure, and they're using metaphors of fire, brass, and gold, which is basically synonymous for one. Now, their bodies, when we speak about these angelic forms, their bodies are not made of matter as we know it, but rather of pure energy, congealing in an appropriate form for the sake of their individual earthly mission. Such form is discarded once the entity returns to its own dimensional plane of existence. So if you're ever worthy of seeing an angel and they come to actually visit you, you have to understand that there is no forms in the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, it's all energy. Oh, you're going to tell me, but I just saw an angel last night, came knocking on my door, and I opened the door, and he looked like Eliyahu Navi, and he looked like this and that. Well, that's only a costume that he'll congeal, sort of fabricate for that particular mission that he wants to communicate with you. That's all it is. Such a case is mentioned in the Tanakh, referring to an angel that visited the parents of Shimshon, a Jewish judge who possessed tremendous strength. Now, once the angel finished his message, scriptures mention how the angel disappeared in a puff of smoke. Again, another example. Always either it's fire, smoke, this type of analogy, which makes so much sense now. Now, standard human intelligence does not conceive matterless forms of pure energy, because if we were to go, let's say we'd have a special spaceship and we all go into the spiritual world, what we would see? Nothing. You would see nothingness. You would see just pure energy. Our intelligence is not hardwired to conceive that with our physicality, with our physical eyes or our physical senses. Yet these entities exist up and above our awareness or lack of. Just because we don't see them doesn't mean they don't exist. Now, when interacting with us, these entities must project a type of image through our faculty of imagination. Now, this is very important what I'm saying here, to give us a frame of reference to recognize them. Otherwise, they are not detectable. So imagine, how is it conceivable that a spiritual entity would contact you? Again, we're not talking about the exception of them coming as a miracle and just crystallizing themselves in front of you, which is, again, a paradox to the spiritual world, but rather they're giving you a sense that they are there, an image that they are there. I'm not a physical image, but rather an image inside your mind with your inner eye. And what image would they project for you to understand what their message is? Well, what they would do is that they would use your faculty of imagination. You have stored inside your brain all these images, all these memories. So what they simply do is tap on one of your images in your mind, and that would come to you. For example, let's say your great-grandfather wants to come and give you a message. I don't know. Let's say. So he's completely energy. If he's completely energy, how can he make himself aware to you? All you'd see is, I don't know, puff of smoke, a light beam. So he'd go into your imagination, conjure up those images of you seeing him in a picture, and then throw that picture to your mind. You go, well, that's strange. I see a picture of my grandfather for some reason. Well, I would say to you, isn't that strange that happens at that particular time, that you're seeing a picture of your grandfather? Maybe, or maybe not. That could be a contact from the other side. Now let's continue. Thus, when one of these entities appears, it actually is harmonizing, slowing its vibrational frequency with an appropriate match to you within the individual subjective mind. Now, I'll repeat that again. So how is this intensely high frequency of energy, this entity, this body of light, coming down and making contact or giving you information? Again, these are all introductions to Ruach HaKodesh, or how prophecy works. It wasn't hocus pocus. There was mechanics, a mechanism that they used to do. They used to go to schools of prophecy to learn different styles of connecting. And this is one particular way. So these entities, what they would do, they would have to slow down, therefore, their vibrational frequencies in order to try to come in communication with you. Such an entity does not need to take on mass and thus slow down its personal modulation to that point. It doesn't have to become physical to contacts. It simply communicates with a human in one dimension that we share, which is the realm of thoughts. So thought is not the ultimate in the spiritual world, but it's definitely far from the physical world. So in that meeting place called the realm of thought, that's where the communications happen. As mentioned earlier, a proof that radio waves and other frequencies exist is because we have the necessary instruments. Because otherwise, someone can tell you, oh, there's something called a radio wave. Well, prove it to me. Well, I don't know. You just have to believe it. There's waves up there someplace. The only way I can prove it to you is that I take a radio, I take an instrument, I turn it on, which taps into that wave, drags it down, and then you hear the sound through the instrument. We are the instruments for those higher frequencies, okay, with the exact same thing as a radio. We tap in through what we've been talking through the last few lessons, through elevating ourselves, through being mindful of our thoughts, creating that space of nothingness, and through there allowing these waves, which are everywhere, just like radio waves are everywhere, internet waves are everywhere. You don't have to go grab them anywhere, but they're just there. But if you are not in the groove, if you are not paying attention to those waves, or even to somebody who's passing by, you're not paying attention, you won't see that person. So you have to put yourself in that space of intense. And through that, allowing yourself to receive, and as simple as that. It really is. And I'll tell you, a lot of people do not get this because they overcomplicate it. And through the overcomplications, so overcomplicating things, that's where the difficulties come and you're not able to connect. But nevertheless, it's not as simple as I say. There are still two more components to forming a connection, or what I call the communication channel, to this other world, to this other side. The first, in the same way they have to lower their vibratory frequencies, we, on our side, the physical plane, we have to elevate our vibratory frequencies to create this connection or communication portal. This is the foundation to prophecy and Ruach HaKodesh. Now, the question is how do we do that? How do we raise our frequencies in order to get to that middle ground, that realm of thought that we spoke about? We spoke about them coming down to us, but not coming to the physical world, that they don't need to do that. But we have to get up there midway to join them. And once we're in that realm of thoughts, realm of the mind, then we can start communicating. But how do we elevate ourselves? Well, there's two ways. And here they are. The first is the power of simcha. Now, you might say to myself, this is anticlimax. You thought I was going to give you a special wand or some special name of Hashem that you just pronounce and then boom, you elevated yourself. No, it doesn't. It's not that way. It's much more simple. Now, I'll prove it to you. The Torah specifically promises that all the blessings that anybody would ever want in his life will only be fulfilled if he does his service to Hashem with simcha, with joy. With joy. That's a big statement. The Torah says this. Now, we have to find out, it must be quite powerful to do something with joy. Now, our sages also tell us that Ruach HaKodesh, the power of prophecy, will only reside on a prophet who is in a state of utter joy and happiness. Again, the reference to joy and happiness to get Ruach HaKodesh. We'll find another reference by Yaakov Avinu, actually the opposite, that his Ruach HaKodesh left him because he was in a state of mourning, and not mourning for his son Yosef, that he thought he died, and he was not in a state of joy. That's why his Ruach HaKodesh left him. So this is evidence that joy has to be one of the factors here, one of the keys in order for us to use for our elevation or our ascension. So the question is, how does joy work? Or better, why should joy work to allow the prophecy to happen? How does it work exactly? So allow me to enlighten. I just had to put that in. That was so funny when I heard that, the drum roll. Now, the answer is that simcha, joy, simply elevates our frequency. That's all it does. Now, I'll prove that to you, because we all know this. Because when we feel let's say you're waiting for a great piece of news for a long time. You're just waiting in anticipation for such a long time. And all of a sudden, you get that phone call. Yes, you won the lottery for $2 billion. Now, how would you feel at that point? Where did all your anguish and your stress and your problems and your thoughts and all that, where did that go? Out the window. Now, it could still be that you still have health problems, you still have marriage problems, you could still have your problems. But for that moment, when you hear that piece of news, you're just in seventh heaven. You're just beyond yourself. What happens at that point where you just totally focus on that piece of news? You've elevated yourself to a different frame of reference. You've really moved into a different dimension. Even it sounds very mystical, but really that's what happened. You move your way up and above your daily thought patterns into a different dimension. That's the power of joy. Joy can actually elevate you without having to stay in meditation for 10 days or even for a few hours, without meditating at all. You can be in that dimension that we're looking for within seconds. And one of the important ingredients is joy. Joy has that power. We've all felt that in our lives. That state of joy is not only a way to access that level, it also gives you peace of mind. Because we can't forget what we learned beforehand in our previous classes, that peace of mind leads us into that gateway called nothingness. And that's the realm of thought. That's where we want to get to. We don't want to be in a state where thought is ripping us from side to side and making us think of things that we're not wanting to think right now, or thinking of the past, or thinking of probable problems in the future. We want to get out of that state of mind, take control of it, and be in a state of control, peace of mind. So how do we do that? So we elevate ourselves. How do we elevate ourselves? Through a process called joy. And through elevating through a process of joys, we get that peace of mind that we can connect. But more importantly, it also intensifies it immensely, giving the power and energy that we need for that elevation. That's the gas that we need to get to that dimension. That leads to the power of focus when one has that peace inside of him. Hope you're understanding and following what I'm saying so far. Now, the second important component that we need is obviously the power of thoughts. And the way I'm going to translate thought over here is kavanah, intention. I really should say the power of intention as opposed to the power of thought. So I'm just gonna edit that. Intention, not thought, but intention. Not attention, but intention. You have to have the right intention to lead you forward. So we find that the Torah has very strong emphasis on thoughts and intention and prayer, performing the commandments. You know, have kavana, have intention when you're doing something. And why is that? Why so much emphasis? And the answer is that thoughts or intention create things. When you're intentionally thinking of something, believe me or not, but in the spiritual world, it actually creates that or manifests that what you're thinking about. The method of travel in the spiritual dimension is through the medium of thinking, of kavanot. When we say kavanot, that's the pure intention. The strength of intention will move you. That is your chariot. We spoke about the chariot of Yechezkel. That's the power of kavanah. In other words, where your thoughts are, you are. The thought actually moves faster than the speed of light. And even though Einstein said there's nothing faster than the constant of the speed of light, but thought can move even faster than that. So using those two variables of simcha to elevate ourselves and kavana, those are the two components that we need. Okay, so let's just summarize now for a second. We said a lot in this class, and I want to hear some bit of feedback as well of what you think, if you have any questions. So what we learned this session is that we're all energy. We're all beings of lights, molecules which are spinning at the speed of light, which is 186,000 miles per second. Number two, this gives us the ability to connect with the spiritual world, which are all also made of the same stuff. Remember, in the spiritual world, like for like attracts. Like for like attract. In this world, if I want to bring something close to something else, I have to physically move them together. But in the spiritual worlds, it doesn't work that way. If you have the right kavanah, something with the other something or that being that has also that same kavanah will be joined together. Number three, when we elevate energy to the when we elevate energy levels and the spirit world lower, let me just change this. When we elevate our energy levels and the spirit world lower theirs, remember we have to meet that middle ground, that medium place, then that's where the magic happens. That's where the communication channel is formed at that point. They come down, we go up. Number four, we elevate ourselves through simcha and navigate through the power of kavanah. Okay, so that is the class, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? So now, what I want to do before the questions, actually, I want to go through a little exercise with everybody, and we are going to test the waters a little bit, okay, with this meditation. So, if everybody okay with that? Just raise up your spiritual hand if you can. Your virtual hand. Okay, Ira. Okay, good. Yaakov. Okay, good. So, wonderful. Okay, who do we have? Okay, yeah, I can see you, Ariel. Okay, Libby. Okay, Debbie, David, Fran. Okay, Naira. Okay, wonderful. And the other phone numbers. Okay, wonderful. So let's take a few minutes now to focus. Okay, we want to close our eyes, and like I said, you don't have to close your eyes, but it's always a good idea because it takes you away from the distractions which are around you. And the first thing we're going to do, we're going to concentrate on our breath. On our breath. So let's take 3 deep breaths. Keep them for 1 or 2 seconds, and then you allow that to go out. And as you exhale, you letting go of any tensions that you have, any stress, any problems. Just let them go for the moment. Inhale, keep it for 2 seconds, and then you exhale. And then one more big inhale, and then you exhale. And then return back to your regular breathing cycle. Now we concentrate on the breath, of it going through your nostrils, going inside your body, and then out again. Inhaling positivity, exhaling negativity. Let's do that for a few seconds. Now, even though we said we should not engage in thoughts, for this exercise, I want you to think of a very happy moment in your life. Extremely, extremely happy moment in your life. Or a place that you visited that gave you a lot of simcha, a lot of joy in your life. Could be that you're visiting a beach, could be visiting a country that you always wanted to, or some news that you heard about, or the day of your marriage, or maybe not the day of your marriage, whatever the case should be. But think just for a few seconds of a very enjoyable event or place or action, and just ponder on that and let that feeling exponentially grow as you're thinking about it, as if it's happening right now. Now, I want you to feel that feeling and relive that feeling until you feel with every molecule in your body that your body is vibrating with that happiness, with that simcha, with that joy. Any other thoughts come in your mind, just focus back on the breath and allow that thought just to dissipate. Now, with that joyous feeling, I want you to connect with your inner being, with your soul, with your neshama. And as you connect and as you focus your attention on your neshama, this great feeling, you feel yourself expanding larger and larger. Your neshama filling the entire room now with this feeling of ecstasy, of happiness, of relaxation. Now you feel yourself floating up and above your surroundings, your house, your home. Totally enjoy and ecstasy. Feel this in your body. Now, as you're elevating yourself, I want you to look at the distance. And as you look at the far distance, you see a bright light coming towards you. And as you're focusing on that bright light, it's getting closer and closer. And as it's getting closer, it's getting larger and larger and larger. as if you're coming closer to the sun. Still feeling that feeling of joy and ecstasy. And just looking afar and seeing this beautiful glow like the sun. I'm going to leave you here for a few minutes just to experience. Don't look for things, don't hear things, just experience and feel this in your body. Okay, now I want you to slowly pull back. Pull back and feel yourself coming back into your premises, back into your bodies. Slowly but surely, heading back into our physical plane or reality. Now try to come back to your bodies and move your feet and move your fingers. And just give me a sign if you're back with us. Okay, Debbie. Aria, Solomon, Fran. Okay, everybody coming back. Wonderful. Cindy, Yaakov, of Yaakov, Reuven. Good. So I think, oh, good. So I think we're all back. All these people that I can see over here. So let's just go through. I'm just curious. Let's just go through the room and I want to hear from each one of you what you experienced. Okay, Ira, you want to go first?
Sure. I don't think I experienced like the full joy. I think that's something I need to work on.
Okay.
But experience being above the house, but then I kind of always get lost. I always fall asleep.
Okay, something you got to work on. Okay, very good. Reuven Glucksmann.
I didn't experience so much.
Okay, it takes a little bit of time to get used to. It's not the regular state of awareness. Of Yaakov, you want to tell us your experience?
Yeah, it was interesting. I was able to focus and get the joy, and then when that light was coming, I felt the light was increasing the joy. It's like the light was something that was more joyous, and it was sort of like giving me a little bit of that and upgrading the level of joy. So that was interesting. Didn't expect it.
Wow, that's nice. That's really nice. Cindy, you want to give us your thoughts?
I'm trying, but I just have a lot of background stuff going on, so I didn't really do the exercise.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for being honest.
Okay.
But try it in your own time when you have some time. It's very powerful.
Is there a way to share these slides?
Yeah. Yeah. Ira, can you send the slides to send to everyone?
Ira, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Yeah, hi, hello. So have you been getting them till now? We send them out every week, pretty much.
I don't think so. I don't think you have my email address. I just gave it to you.
Oh, great. Okay, then I'll send them along.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay, Fran, go ahead. Share your experience.
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't get into a full sense of joy. I got into a little bit of joy thinking about some of my experiences, spiritual things. And I saw myself above the house, and I got to the visualization of seeing the light. And then what I was feeling a vibration like in my core, very subtle. And then I started getting very hot, which is what happens to me whenever I've worked with somebody energetically, doing therapy, or if they've worked on me, they've complained about me emanating heat to the point where they've had to leave the room. So I'd like to know if there's some way to deal with that, because it's not good to get hot like that.
But it really fits into what we've been talking about, elevating that frequency and getting that heat. Heat is also a form of thing, but we'll address that.
Okay, thank you.
Reuven, I think we spoke to Reuven. Okay, David. David, do you want to give us your take? I don't know if you can hear us. You're muted, so I don't know if you.
Yes.
Oh.
I'm going to have to do it later.
Okay. Don't forget, it's very powerful. It really fuels this elevation. Ariel?
Yeah. Okay. So I didn't feel anything because I think I know that I'm not physically there, that I was only there in my mind. So it was very hard to generate the same feelings as being physically there.
Okay. Like I said, it takes time to generate this, this space, and it's a very, very difficult thing, especially if you're not used to it. Getting to the no mind and elevating. But slowly but surely. What about Debbie?
Hi. So I'm actually still feeling it. It's like this wave of just beautiful healing energies that's going through me, like all the way from like my head to my toes and back. It's just illuminating a beautiful healing vibration.
Wow, beautiful. What about, that's really nice to hear. What about Solomon? Can you hear us, Solomon? No, I think you're still muted, Solomon, so. Okay, we'll pass on Solomon. I think he's on the phone. Sorry? I don't know who's speaking. Okay, so Solomon, if you have something to say, go ahead. If not, Libby? Go ahead, Libby. You're muted, Libby. Can you unmute yourself? Oh, still mute. Go ahead, Libby.
Hi, Rabbi. Can you hear me?
Oh, Solomon. Okay, we'll get you 1 second, Libby. Go ahead, Solomon.
Sorry, yeah, I'm just traveling and it's a little difficult with connection and with people. So it was a little difficult to get anywhere with
Right,
under the
that's fine, 'cause
circumstances.
you're in the car.
Right. So tried my it was a difficult fight with focusing on happy and simcha, and then just a lot of stuff going on from all over all the realms, just bombarding with like what I guess as negativity, and so that was a little difficult, but that was my experience.
Okay, le'at lad, it works slowly, and then you'll build up. Very good.
Right.
Libby, you want to give us your take? Are you still with us, Libby?
Yes, hi, it's Libby. How are you? I lost you for a moment.
Yeah, no problem.
When I started listening, I understood like these things have happened to me before, but it's usually when I'm sleeping, I'll dream of my mother or being with my grandfather, but it's more than just a dream. And I know I'm them. And the angels I know that even though they have passed away. So I knew when you started listening, with that dreaming, and it kind of happens when I fall asleep. So I know I've just been, but this time I was able to remember my last pure moment of joy. For a while, that light and hovering over the house, going to that spot. That's been
We can't hear you so well. I think you're cutting in, cutting out. But I think I got a gist of what you're saying. You're saying that you've seen these images in your sleep, but we're going to try to get you to a point where it's not sleep, but rather it's actually wake state, and you're able to control that. So that's nice to hear. That's nice to hear. So let's hear from Naira. Is that how you pronounce it? Nira? Can you hear me, Nira or Naira? Okay, I don't know if she's there or not. What about telephone number 3734?
Yeah, hi, this is Moish.
Oh.
Yeah. So actually, I had a great experience of deep calmness and joyful experience.
Beautiful. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very powerful. Okay, yeah. What about telephone number 5471?
That's me, Rabbi. Whatever connection works.
Oh, yeah. You got two telephone numbers?
I have one on Zoom and one dial-in, so because the
Okay.
connection wasn't so good.
It's Solomon. That's Solomon.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so I'm very happy to hear, that you guys are progressing. Now, really, just homework, really. I had to put that in. It's funny. Now, homework. Okay, it's very important to keep this up. Keep the practice, not only once a week, but practice this meditation a few times a week if you can. It only takes really 5 minutes. Ira, do you mind muting everyone, please?
No.
The practice just takes a few minutes.
You have to unmute yourself, though.
Yeah. Okay. Where am I here?
Okay, everyone should mute it now.
Okay. So like I said, the practice only takes a few minutes, as you saw. It's very quick. It's very, very powerful. It's going to build up. We're going to do more and more exercises as we go along. Don't forget the first few lessons. Well, be the watcher of your thoughts. That's so critical, because that's your barometer to see whether you're doing a good job or not. Because, just because you're closing your eyes and so-called meditating, but if you're just thinking about your thoughts and allowing your thoughts to move you, then you're not meditating. You're just really thinking about your thoughts. But if you can take a third-party look at your thoughts, then you're taking control of your life. Okay. And the last thing I want to say is practice elevating your frequency. Practice on this joy, on this simcha. Okay. And then we're going to work more on the kavana. But as you're working with this joy, that's the petrol, that's the gas, that's going to get you up there. Okay. So that's very, very powerful.
Rabbi, do
yeah.
we want to try to schedule a short meditation, another additional short meditation session during the week in addition to this? Or I don't know.
Well, for me, it's a bit difficult. If you guys all want to come together, that's fine, or organize that.
Well, just for a half hour, or, not a full session, just to continue with the practice.
Yeah. Yeah, we can always try it out. But I hope everybody just continues, and we'll see you next week, B'ezrat Hashem. All right.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Wait, there were some questions some people may have sent.
Oh, we forgot the questions, right? Any questions before we turn off?
I had a question earlier when we're talking about light and the angels. I wanted to know, do the angels travel faster than light?
Well, we don't have the exact statistics on angels, how fast they travel. I mean, the speed of light, they're definitely traveling faster than the speed of light, because if we are physical people and our molecules are traveling speed of light, they must be obviously traveling faster. Exactly how much faster? We don't know.
Hello?
Solomon, go ahead.
Yeah. Just to clarify, when we're talking about the spiritual world and then we brought in like science into it, was a bit confusing, because that's why I guess is something difficult for me to understand, is that the spiritual world, as we're seeing it now, a different form of the physical world, like a I guess like like the steam to the water of the physical world.
Right. I mean, you can look at it as this. It's really everything we see in the physical world is projected or a projection of the spiritual world. It's a mirror image. There is no difference. Wherever you are now here in the physical world, there is a spiritual representation of you in the spiritual world. So you're physically here. There's you up there in the spiritual world. So it is a reflection. It's like for like. So all we wanted to do with the science is just give you examples of things that you can understand physically. Because if we only talk about the spiritual world, it becomes a little bit abstract. So when you get examples, for example, water, and you're heating up, and it morphs into one substance to another substance, you can see that, wow, steam, you can't hold on to it. It has no smell, has no touch. So that's a good example of a spiritual thing, really. For physical water that you feel when you drink it, as opposed to something evaporates and it goes into plasma. Plasma is even a higher form of water. Okay, those are just examples to help us understand. That's why we use science.
Got it. Okay, but it's not like a literal. It's more of an example.
Yeah,
That's
it's
what
only proof. It's only proof. Yeah.
Got it,
Anybody
okay.
else? Okay, good. So we'll see you next week, Ascension.